What I'm hearing a lot and what I think is really interesting is that we're getting to a stage where marketing, market research, customer relationship management are becoming very integrated. They're becoming very similar. They are sharing a lot of data and information, and a lot of these companies are trying to figure out ways to help organizations listen across the enterprise. So it's not just market research who's listening. It's not just marketing who's listening. It's taking the insights gained from listening, putting a customer relationship management layer over it so that there are deeper, richer relationships and engagement with the brand and with the consumer. I think one example I heard today that I thought was interesting, because I've often heard about social media in the silo, right? And again, the organizations I spoke to today, they're talking about breaking down the silos. And one example that I heard today specifically that I thought was really interesting was the example of JCPenney, and how JCPenney was, the consumer voice was this panel community, but it's giving it like one vote into the boardroom and one vote into the product research and one vote into how marketing messages were being shaped and formed. And I wasn't given or provided with specific examples of exactly how they were doing it, but it's just guaranteed and ensured that JCPenney, for this particular vendor, JCPenney was a model or example of where that type of social media integration is headed. In this activity of social media listening, one of the things that I think have been an important measurement tool for companies, especially, well, it's tricky because when we're talking about social media listening and we're talking about how research uses it, it's not really a measurement, right? But when we're talking about marketing using it, it's a measurement in terms of it's similar to tracking web traffic. How many people did we engage, and what was the quality of the engagement? How many brand advocates can we say that we have who now go out there and share our message, and how many customers can we help us turn over new customers? How can we flip the funnel, as Jaffe tends to say? There's a new book out called Flipping the Funnel, about taking a customer and helping them turn more customers for you. And I think that's what we're hearing a lot about these deeper relationships, these engagements. The measurement there really is getting real authentic information and real insights, which you don't always have the right mix of community, is what I'm hearing a lot about. And then when you're listening to social media off in the hinterland out there on the World Wide Web, it's even a little trickier because sometimes you have to just step back and watch. When you have the private community, you have directed conversations that you're dealing with, right? When you're out there in the hinterland on the World Wide Web, you're dealing with undirected conversations, and that information can get a little unwieldy. So what I'm hearing about a lot more filtering options being provided in these listening tools, and being able to track globally, right? So how do you do that? You have to have multilingual listening tools now, and you have to have tools that are searching far and wide, but then bringing you back, your filters have to be right. And I think that's how measurement is working. It's like you have to know the key indicators that you need to change your business or to achieve your business goals. And once you have those key indicators, the measurement is easy because you're filtering for that. An example that is often presented to me is Apple must be the hardest company to monitor social media, right? Because people talking about apples, they're talking about fruits, right? A lot of times. So how do you get a listening tool to make sure that you're talking about Apple, the computer, right? So that's refining Boolean queries, right? You really have to refine them. So it's like Apple plus computer, Apple plus iPad, Apple plus, and so on, in brackets, in parentheses, or whatever. It's getting really deep for each product, for each each software package. It's that type of thing, to be really specific. But sometimes people are talking about Apple, the company, and not mentioning the product at all. So that's where you also have to get humans involved in human coding. And then that's how the filtering gets even better. And I think over time, now that these listening tools have been around a while, they're learning more and they're trying to adapt to the environment. Also because people speak slang, when they're on Twitter or on Facebook. So these listening vendors are adapting to these environments. Brands are using the web in really creative ways, beyond display advertising, beyond keywords and searches, right? And some of the really interesting and fascinating ways we see that brands are using the webs, I will use Vitamin Water as an example. Vitamin Water built what they call the Flavor Creator app, right? And they put that up on Facebook, and they promoted it. They promoted it offline through ads, TV spots, radio spots, what have you, to get people to go online. And because it was also a contest built in, right? And it was to create a new flavor of vitamin water. And the application lived on Facebook, and people could log in and do this mixing and create this flavor. And then they came down to voting, and they were rated, the flavors were rated, and then the finalists were then rated on. And one thing that's really interesting, the brand manager who did this project, he said his boss asked him, what if they come up with a really kooky flavor? Do we have to still do it? And the answer was yes. The brand manager said, yes, we have to still do it because we're listening and we're telling the consumer that they can create this new flavor. And so they created the new flavor based on that. And now the flavor is called Connect. And it has a Facebook logo on it as well to show that it was created through Facebook and through social media. So I think that's one specific example of how creatively social media can be used beyond bringing people closer to a brand that's beyond anything else that we've been dealing with before social media. Co-creation and what some people call crowdsourcing, I think is evolving over time. Brands have always, in ways, had contests for consumers to get involved with helping redefine products or position products into the marketplace. But I think now, just social media, just the web in general, gives us interactive tools, video, flash, whatever, all these technologies and interactive tools that we didn't have before. We didn't have these tools and these ways of helping people to visualize, right? So because there's so much visualize and rating systems that you can use now, it just makes it so much easier to engage with the consumer. And I think the other thing was brands discovered that people were losing trust in them and losing faith in them. And they had to help figure out how to get the consumer connected to the brands again. So that's why all of this co-creation and crowdsourcing, I think, is emerging, and it's like the cat's meow. At the ARF, we are trying to walk the walk of social media ourselves. And what that means is, for instance, for this event, we had an online community by Crowdvine, and we got people excited and buzzing about the community prior to, and we did a tweet hashtag, and Crimson Hexagon is, analyzing those tweets and visualizing it here for us, right over there, by the way. And so, those are some steps we're taking because we're trying to engage and figure out ourselves for the ARF. So I think what I want to see happen for the ARF, we need to have a real social media strategy in place for ourselves. But for the industry at large, some of the things we're working on. Yesterday I presented something called Listening to the Multicultural Consumer with Uniworld, and we're going to expand that project out to more of a white paper. It was just a presentation yesterday because the multicultural consumer is the new consumer, is part of the new normal that we're talking about here today. And the whole experience of the multicultural consumer is totally different than the general market. There are some similarities, but there are things that are different. And the new consumer is becoming the majority. So we have to look at the different ways of how this new consumer is using social media and understanding how to connect with them through social media. And another thing that I'm really excited about we're going to be working with some other organizations on is social media measurement, right? Because this agency is over here talking this language, this agency is over here talking that language, these languages are not connecting, so we need to figure out some standards, some best practices, and come up with some solutions. We're going to bring together people from the client side, people from the agency side, people from measurement. We're going to bring them all into a room and start a project, and that's happening really soon, and I hope we have it completed, hopefully even in time for our AM 5.0, which takes place in June, so we can report on what social media measurement really is. The ARF's membership is dominated by advertisers in the US, Northern America, primarily. And we're here today talking about the new normal, talking about the multicultural audience, talking about the global audience, and how can we proceed 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road if we don't have an international membership? How can we really understand the growing global advertising industry, marketing industry? So ways that we're doing this, I mean, we're definitely, some of the ARF folks are going out and speaking with international, we're doing partnerships, but beyond that, our social media efforts, we're just really stepping up our social media efforts so that people think of us as a leader and an authority on advertising research. And how we're doing that, we're using, video content, we're creating online photo galleries, we're creating social networks, we're activating our Twitter account at Rethink right now, as I mentioned already, but we're using it for other projects, and we're going to integrate it into almost everything we do from now on, and we're figuring out where our audience is. We're figuring out ways to use LinkedIn, because Facebook doesn't make as much sense for us. LinkedIn is a professional community, so we're ramping up our efforts there and building a group there to build a dialogue to find out what people care about and what they think about it. And it's interesting that I am starting to see people joining us from Brazil and from South Africa and from Africa. So I think these efforts are going to help people pay more attention to the ARF, what we're about, the kind of messages that we're sharing, the kind of research that we're sharing, and the members that we have connected here.